Hello there, it's me again. Um, I'm just going to go straight into everything without any real pleasantries. Um, so the last couple of weeks, much like the last video I did, I've not done a huge amount, partly because of work, and also because I came to the realisation a couple of weeks ago that I've not been looking after myself particularly well. So it's been a lot of self-care, making sure I get up in the mornings, making sure I brush my teeth regularly, because I've been minging for a few weeks now, so I'm not minging at the moment, so that's a positive. Um, you may or may not remember, a couple of months ago I had some blood tests done, and they told me that I had very high cholesterol and told me that I needed to make changes to my lifestyle. They went through things like smoking, drinking, and everything else like that, and they came up with the only thing that I could cut out to help my cholesterol was to cut out processed foods, which is pretty much my only vice. Um, and so I've cut out processed foods. I've been eating much more healthily, which for some reason has seen my weight go up, which was a bit of a spoiler for one of the challenges. Had some more blood tests about a week and a half ago, and I've looked at the results, and my cholesterol has gone up since I've been looking after myself better. So I've decided that I'm just going to carry on eating what I want. So I'm in a bit of a celebratory mood today because for the first time in about 8 or 9 weeks, I've had sausages for lunch, and I love sausages. So that's kind of like my health and stuff like that. Which the other thing that's not been too good for me in terms of my health and my weight is on Just Eat. They've added a load of places that deliver chicken wings to my house. So it's called Wings and Tings, and it's in Norwich, but their wings are gorgeous. So I've not done very well on the weight loss front, but I'm back to football tonight. So I'll get weighed in, I'll be overweight, and then I'll start trying to work on it again. But I seem to have been stuck at around 13 stone 3 to 13 stone 5 for about 2 months now. So I need to do something to kind of break through that 13 stone barrier, which isn't working too well. So that's that side of everything sorted. Other than that, the big changes that I've made at home in the last couple of weeks is I've rearranged the consoles that we have in the house, because I think I've shown you around the retro space in the garage, which is where I am now. But in the house we had the Xbox Series S downstairs. We had the Wii U and the PS5 in our bedroom, and the Switch just moved to whichever room we needed it in. And Hannah and I realised that we were not using the living room at all because we were just letting the boys have the Xbox on. So we've hung a TV in our oldest son's bedroom, moved the Xbox Series S into there, we've moved the PS5 into the living room, so because we use the PS5 more than we use any of the other consoles in the house. And so far it's worked, and we've played a lot more games so far. So with the children, we completed Turtles in Time, that's on the Cowabunga collection, which was really fun actually. It was nice that we were able to do the arcade cheat where you just press start so you get unlimited lives, which we wouldn't have completed it without those unlimited lives. Oh, and another thing based around Turtles, I took the plunge and bought myself The Last Ronin over the weekend. I planned to start reading it a couple of days ago, started reading it and didn't put it down until it was finished. It was absolutely brilliant. If you like Turtles at all, read it. It helps if you know some of the backstory, but not massively. And if the rumours that there's a movie of it being made, I'm very excited right now. So we play Turtles in Time. We've started playing about 8 years ago. I bought a Power Rangers game that is quite similar to Streets of Rage. We've been playing that as a 4-player with the boys. We're about halfway through that, so that's been a lot of fun. And Hannah bought me The Last of Us Part 1, which I was planning on buying last year before the show came out. Decided not to, and then the price just shot straight up, and it's not come down to a decent level since then. But she saw it at CEX for about £45, I think. So I've carried on from my 2-hour free trial on that. Unfortunately, it didn't save the last hour that I'd done on it, which is quite annoying. But I'm enjoying that. It's really absorbing, and I'm guessing that will probably be the next game that I complete, unless we do things like the Power Rangers ones as a group. And I've also installed the PS5 version of Marvel's Spider-Man, just so that I can play through the story again before I do any DLC. So that's my gaming fortnight, which hasn't been cram-packed, but it is getting fuller. Hannah and I have started watching Fallout. With 2 episodes in. It's very enjoyable, and Hannah started playing Fallout 4. Bit of a spoiler if she mentions it in her next video. Video is the word I was trying to think of. So that's what I've been doing in terms of playing games, and I've mentioned the challenges that I do in Discord for the Unofficial Controller podcast. That challenge ended up being finished 2 weeks early because Ginge, who is just this gaming god, really, he'll pick up a game that he's never played before and then he'll win the challenges. He maxed out the score that you are allowed to get, so there was no point in continuing the challenge. So I've been preparing stuff for next month's challenge instead and taken a couple of weeks off from doing leaderboards. So that's where we are in terms of my challenges. But talking of challenges, start of the year, I did set myself 2 challenges. Number 1 was based around the Mega Drive collection, which was that I could only buy a Mega Drive game if I lost £1, and every time I lose £1, I get a Mega Drive game. I think I've lost £2 this year, and I've probably put them back on since. So I'm not doing well at all on that front. I know why it is. It's because I like food and I don't like moving. So something has to give as far as those are concerned, otherwise I'm not getting any more Mega Drive games. But my other challenge for the year was to try and cut down on the amount of games that I buy, which ultimately we've already failed that challenge, but I'm still keeping it going for these particular games. And to be fair, Hannah's the one who tends to buy a lot of cheaper games rather than me. So that challenge is every time I complete a game, I'm allowed to buy a game from a particular list. And I'm going to go through that list today, but first I'll go through the games that I've completed and the games that I've picked up as a result of that. So the games I've completed in no particular order are Turtles in Time, Streets of Rage, which I did with my youngest son, Slay the Princess, which I'd like to do more playthroughs of because that was very fun, Perky Little Things, which was such a fun game if you've not played it. I did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade. I picked up the Platinum for Spider-Man 2, and very early in the year I completed Day of the Tentacle for the umpteenth time. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games completed so far from a list of 20 games that I want to buy, which isn't too bad really, because we're a third of the way through the year. So third of 20, well, 3 times 7 is 21. So I'm on course, and I still haven't done my annual playthroughs of Monkey Island and Monkey Island 2. So they're yet to come. So that's 2 games completely boshed off the list, whatever I do. So the games that I've picked up as a result of it, I've picked up Starwing for the SNES, which I think I spent £6 on that to get it cartridge only. I'd like to get it boxed, but in the interim, I'm happy to have this on cartridge. That was on my list because I wasn't a big one for having Nintendos when I was younger. I think we had a SNES for about 3 weeks before my stepdad sold it. So that was one of the games we had for it, along with another one that is on my list. But I'll get to that when I go through the rest of the list. But I just remember being blown away by this when I was younger because it was 3D graphics. It's exciting. And now anything less than 60 frames per second doesn't excite people. And it's sad that we're not going to get that kind of generational jump ever again. But what can you do? Right, the next one is Sheepdog and Wolf for the PlayStation. I never owned this when I was younger. What I did have was... I'm going to stand up and grab it now. Ugh. I had this demo disc for the PlayStation, which had one level from the game. I'm a big fan of Looney Tunes, and particularly Wile E. Coyote. And so I appreciate it's not Wile E. Coyote, it's his cousin, Ralph Wolf, which is quite nice given my dog is called Ralph. And ultimately, you're trying to steal sheep from a dog. And I've wanted it since I was a young teenager. I have it in the collection, so I'm happy with that. I just need to get around to playing it, because I've got so many games in here that I always get distracted, and it's the curse of having choice. It's like Netflix. I'll spend 2 hours searching through to try and find something that I want to watch, and then by the time I start watching something, I'm tired, I want to go to sleep, so I never end up watching anything. The next one I have is Sonic Spinball for the Mega Drive. It's not one that I had when I was a child. In my 20s, I was a night shift manager for Waitrose, and one of my staff said they'd found a Mega Drive game in their loft. Would I like it? And they gave me Sonic Spinball, and it's a game that I absolutely love playing, but I'm also horrendously bad at it. And I think I've been onto the second level maybe 3 times, apart from when I did a challenge a couple of months ago for it, where I've pretty much mastered the first level now. But I've seen the third level once. I've never completed it. I doubt I ever will complete it, but it's still one of my favourite games ever. And there's no explanation for it, because I'm not a great pinball fan, but there's just something about this game that just hooks me straight in. What do I go for next? Let's go for International Superstar Soccer 64. This was probably the first 3D football game I ever played, and I played this so often and so much when I was younger. In the past, I've loved football a lot more than I do at the moment, and would play this and LMA Manager on the original PlayStation so much, and I would always have to play it on my own because none of my family liked football at all. It wasn't until thinking probably Xbox 360 that I actually had friends that would play football games with me, and then they would end up refusing to play football games with me because I kept beating them. And so that's just got a lot of nostalgia. The thing I didn't point out, which I know I've pointed out in a previous video, look at the price for it back then. I mean, games are expensive now, but they're not much more than that, and yet the games now are so much better. Anyway, I digress. The first one that I got this year was Jungle Book for the Mega Drive. So I've never played Jungle Book on the Mega Drive. The Lion King and Aladdin were the ones that I played when I was younger, and the Jungle Book just wasn't on my radar at all, because in terms of Disney, the Lion King is king for me. King is king. So it's nice to have this in the collection. I'm not sure I'm going to play it a huge amount, but it does bring up the amount of Disney games that I have for the Mega Drive, which means that as of now, the only Disney game I need to have all of them for the Mega Drive is Pocahontas, which is bloody expensive, and it's not on my list, so I just have to hope that I lose some weight and that Hannah gets my hints over and over and over again, and hopefully she'll watch this video and know that I'm hinting over and over and over and over again. And then the final one, which I did buy a couple of weeks ago, but I wasn't allowed it until I'd completed Turtles in Time, is Diddy Kong Racing for the N64. This is my favourite karting game ever. I think it's far better than Mario 64. If you disagree with me, let me know and tell me exactly why it's better than Diddy Kong Racing. You've got your hovercrafts, you've got your planes, and also you've got boss fight races. What more could you want? It's great fun, and it's one of those, again, I didn't have this when I was younger. I just knew someone who did have it, and I'd play it with them, rather than going home and playing on Mario Kart 64, because this is where it's at. This is the best kart racing game. So that just leads me on to what games I would like to add to the collection as a result of this challenge, and I've brought my little list down from my notice board. So, first one, well, the first two actually. Are there more of them? No. First two are with collecting for the Master System. I just want to get the games that I had when I was younger. So, looking over there at the moment, I've got Sonic the Hedgehog, which I had built into my Master System, Rainbow Islands, which I have no idea how much time I spent playing that, The Lucky Dime Caper starring Donald Duck, Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse, and Sonic 2. So the first couple that I've got on this list are Sonic Chaos for the Master System, which it's your typical Sonic game, running at a lower speed because it's on the Master System. But a big key thing for me when I was younger was it was the first game that I had where I could play as Tails, and I've always been more of a fan of the sidekick than I am of the main character. It's just one of my many quirks. I remember when I was younger, I had all of the toys for Bucky O'Hare except for Bucky. So there's something in my head that just doesn't like the lead character. Maybe it's because I'm not even the lead character in my own story. Anyway, I digress. So number 2 on this list is one that I did buy about a month ago, but I need to complete a game before I'm allowed to have it, and that is Super Off-Road for the Master System. I'm not a big fan when it comes to racing games at all, but I remember happily spending many a Sunday morning playing on Super Off-Road and levelling up the car and getting the nitrous oxide and getting really frustrated because I think I could get about 3/4 of the way through the game before I started losing races. So that's one that I think if I put the effort in, I could potentially complete to get another one from this list. We'll see where it goes. And I've just realised I have picked up another game as a result of this list. I got the Simpsons game on the PS3, and just before I started recording this, I went upstairs to go and get it, and then came down without it because I got distracted. So I've got the Simpsons game as well. Anyhow, so next on the list, I've got Tekken 3 for the PS1. I had an N64 around 1998 to 1999, and I remember one afternoon my uncle and his girlfriend came over and they brought their PlayStation. It was a bit of great excitement, and the 2 games that I played that afternoon are this one and the next one on the list. I played Tekken 3, and I'd never played a game like that. I think in terms of beat 'em ups, I'd only ever played Eternal Champions on the Mega Drive. So that was just a complete different level. The idea that you would kind of circle around each other in the ring was just, it blew my mind, and I don't know how well it's aged, but we'll see when I complete a game. Which leads me on to the next one on my list, which on my list I've picked it either for the PS1 or for the Dreamcast. And the reason I've done it like that is because it was one of the first games I played on the PS1. And when I first owned a Dreamcast, this was the first game that I bought for it. And that is Worms Armageddon. I love the Worms games. I love just playing them against the computer, playing against a group of people. I don't particularly like playing Worms in 3D. If you want to do that in 3D, you play Hogs of War. But Worms Armageddon, in my eyes, is the perfect Worms game, and I would love to have that back in the collection. And I will just happily sit out here and just play Worms. What more can I say? Next on the list is another Mega Drive game, which is Garfield Caught in the Act, which the price has gone up quite a lot. When we had a Mega Drive when I was younger, my stepdad would just come home with random games which we'd have for a while, and then all of a sudden they would disappear and we'd never know where they went. Garfield Caught in the Act was one of those, and it's basically, I think the storyline for it is Garfield gets sucked into the TV, and then you have to go through different levels for different genres of TV shows. So I think the first level is like a horror, like the Munsters, Addams Family style show. So you have to work your way through, I think you have to pick up batteries or something, so then you can charge up the remote control so you can come out of the TV. So I would love to get that one back, purely because I remember playing it, I remember not being very, very good at it, and I'd like to get better. Next on the list is Premier Manager 64. Do you remember back in the 90s, early noughties, you used to get like catalogues that would come with games magazines that you could then order from, and they would send you like a monthly catalogue with their latest games. I got Premier Manager through one of them, and it was a school night when it turned up. I said to my mum that I was going to play just for an hour until I went to bed, and then I went to bed at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and then had to get to school that day because it just locked me in, and I would play Premier Manager for hours on end quite happily. And I also really remember staying in the Premier League, I think with Wimbledon, and my top scorer was Frank Leboeuf, with having scored 10 penalties, which is mental. Although, talking of Football Manager games and unlikely things to happen, I also remember playing LMA Manager when I was an older teenager than I was at that point, and I was playing as Norwich City, and I managed to keep Norwich in the Premier League, scoring 14 goals all season, and that included winning 6-1 on the final day of the season. So effectively, if I scored, it was a 1-0 win. Otherwise, it was a 0-0 draw or a defeat. And I've got no idea how the maths worked for me to keep Norwich in the Premier League scoring 14 goals in a season. But it did, and it was fantastic. Ewan Roberts, I think, scored a hat-trick on that last day of the season, but I'm digressing massively. Next on the list, it's another N64 game. There's quite a lot of N64 games on here, actually. And that is Mario Party 2. And that is a game that my uncle bought me for Christmas when I was about 14. I'd asked him to see if he could get me Mario Tennis, and he managed to get me Mario Party 2 instead, and it's fantastic. It's, other than Superstars on the Switch, it's probably the best Mario Party in my opinion. The selection of mini games is fantastic, and I'm frustrated that I sold my copy, although that was part of my selling everything to pay for Denmark a couple of years ago, so it balances itself out. Next on the list is Pokemon Snap. I enjoy the original Pokemon Snap, and it's just a nice, quiet game that you can get on with without any hassle. And I enjoyed the one on the Switch. I remember when I first started playing it, Hannah was sat near me, and every few seconds she was just hearing me going, "Wow, wow," and it really impressed me. And then after that first afternoon, I didn't go back to it. So that's one that I need to go back and play anyway. But I do like the original Pokemon Snap. When I was talking about Starwing earlier, I said there was another game that I had for the SNES, and that is Pitfall, which is a platformer, very cartoony, going round a jungle and things like that. I enjoy it. I've got it for the Mega Drive, but I had it on the SNES for those few weeks I had a SNES. So I would like to get back to having that one on the SNES. So I think the SNES, probably not as heavily as the Master System, but it's going to be going in the direction of getting the games that I remember playing on it. The next two I'm going to bunch together as a pair, and they are Monkey Island and Monkey Island 2, and I'd like to get them for the Atari in big box, which, other than Mario Party 2, that's going to make them the most expensive ones on this list. And I've got them on my Steam library. I can play them anytime I want anyway. I've got them on discs for PC, but when I first played them, it was on the Atari ST, and I want to have them back. Well, I didn't have them myself, they were my uncle's, but I want to have them for the Atari ST. So that's the next target in terms of Monkey Island. The next on the list is GoldenEye for the N64. Again, it's just one that I had. It's one that I want to enjoy again. I have played it on the Xbox, but it feels too clean on Xbox. I think I was probably about 12 or 13 when I played on it. And my real interesting fact about GoldenEye is that my younger brother completed it before I did, when he was about 2.5. I don't understand how he did it, how he understood what he was doing, but he managed to beat GoldenEye before I did. But he is one of those real freakishly natural gamers. And he's got an amazing amount of patience for it, and now he's moving on to doing things to do with Dungeons and Dragons rather than gaming directly. I think he's got a podcast coming out soon, so if he's got it out already, I'll pop a link to it in case you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons and podcasts and stuff like that. The final one that I've got on my list is Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast, which I had it when I had a Dreamcast before the Dreamcast that I've got now. That all went when I was sorting out Denmark, and I want to play a good 3D Sonic. Oh, going back to right at the start of the video, we've also bought Sonic Superstars to play 4-player Sonic with the boys as well. I'm not enjoying it massively, but they are, so that's the important thing. Anyway, I've digressed again. That is my list of 20 games that I want to get this year, but I'm not allowed to buy any of them until I complete a game. So hopefully you found that interesting and it's given you some insight into what kind of games I like and the direction that I go in when it comes to playing games and what I enjoyed when I was younger. So, other than that, I've just got one interesting piece of news that was coming up when I did my last video. I've done part of it, and it's now going to be next month that it will be fully unveiled. But if you read Retro Gamer magazine, you will know that they have a segment in the magazine called Collector's Corner. And last week or the week before, I did an interview with Retro Gamer because my collection is going to be in next month's magazine, which goes on sale on the 9th of May. So that's a nice little bit of excitement. I appreciate my tone of voice isn't excited, but I am genuinely excited for this. So that's all my news. That's everything I've got to tell you about my challenges at the moment. So with nothing else to pass on, I guess I will see you next time. Whether that's in a video with Hannah or whether I see you in a couple of weeks, we'll just wait and see. But other than that, thank you very much for your time.